So many rules.
Oh, and who's here from Northland? Somebody here from Northland? Okay.
Recording in progress.
Oh, the guy. Okay, got it. Okay.
Where are we starting on?
Just a minute, Linz. What's that?
Where are we starting on
Yep.
proclamations?
Okay. All right. Ready, Linz? Time being 7:05, I call the Hastings City Council meeting in order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome, and let the roll reflect that we have a quorum for our council and with the absentee of Council Member Fox. Tonight we have a new employee introduction, and this evening we will welcome several new employees to the city staff. And Kelly Murchar, our Assistant Administrator, will start us out. Welcome, Kelly.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to invite Libby to join me. This evening, I'd like to welcome Libby Hummel, who is serving as our communication intern this summer. Libby attends the University of Wisconsin-La Crosse, majoring in communication studies and minoring in digital media and design. She's been working to enhance our social media channels and ensure ADA compliance with our website content. She attended last week's Makers Market and Music in the Park, two events that she's been helping to promote. She enjoys going to the movies, traveling with friends, and reading a good book. Welcome, Libby.
Welcome, Libby.
Is John gonna go next?
Not sure.
Okay, then I'm gonna jump ahead. Okay, the other person I'd like to introduce is not here this evening. I don't think I saw him come in. He wasn't able to join us. The newest member of our facilities team, our building services worker, Tim Skoog. Tim was born in Red Wing and grew up in Ellsworth, graduated from Zumbrota High School and attended St. Cloud State. He majored in advertising, so that's a perfect fit for the job. Tim has been married for 35 years to his wife, Carla, and they have 2 daughters. When Tim isn't working or with family, you can find him as a pro musician on weekends, DJing at local area establishments, private parties, and weddings. Tim also finds time to run his own graphic design and publishing business that he loves to do. He's also a huge Packer fan, and you can find him cheering loudly. I know there's other Packer fans in the room, but you can find him cheering loudly and eating his championship chili. He's looked forward to meeting the folks that he's met so far and can't wait to meet everyone else. So welcome, Tim. Is John able to go on? Okay.
Folks, can you hear me okay?
We can.
Ken.
Well, I'd like to introduce Lindsay Dunn, our community development intern for the summer. Libby is studying at the University of Wisconsin River Falls Environmental Planning. So she'll be doing a lot of things in the planning and community development department this summer. She's been involved in the Mayor's Market, involved in reviewing permits, and we're going to be having various commission meetings to present information there as well. Lindsay played on the softball team as a pitcher at UW River Falls, and she's been a great asset to the city, so we're glad to have her here for the summer.
Thanks, John. She is not here. Okay. Cody.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'd like to welcome up Josh Speak. So Josh joined us here in the engineering department here in May. Back in 2022, he was actually a seasonal employee of the Public Works Department, but we convinced him to put down the power tools and trade it out for a calculator to join the brainy or nerdy side of Public Works, depending on who you ask. Josh is currently in his second year at BYU studying civil engineering over in Utah. His family still lives nearby in Denmark Township, and he's a former graduate of Hastings High School class of 2018. Outside of work, Josh enjoys playing Star Wars board games competitively and even sports his classic Star Wars lunchbox through the office. And it was when we saw that we knew he picked the right side of Public Works. So in our time with Josh thus far, we've really enjoyed his positive attitude and willingness to take on whatever we need for the day. As you guys know, Public Works and engineering right now changes with the wind, and he's really adopted that can-do attitude. So welcome, Josh. We appreciate having you.
Welcome, Josh. Chief?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Tonight, are introducing two new of our full-time staff here at the fire department. The first one we have is Kurt Sen. He's a new firefighter paramedic for us. He comes to the department starting on May 6th. He worked at Hennepin County Medical Center as a paramedic for 13 years before he was here. And then he also was a paid-on-call firefighter in Wisconsin many years ago, and he has currently completed his initial set of FTO training with the department, so we're happy to have Kurt here. Then our other one is David Sheets, also full-time firefighter paramedic. He started the same time as Kurt on May 6th. He comes with 5 years of experience working at M Health Ambulance and also a paid-on-call firefighter for the city of Apple Valley. So he has also completed his initial set of FTO training. So we're excited to have both of them and all of the experiences that they bring to our community from their previous employment. So thank you guys for joining our community.
Welcome. Mr. Chris?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. We have an employee as well, started on May 6th. Jessica Urbach. She is a part-time office assistant for us in the Parks and Recreation Department, working 20 hours a week for us, doing a variety of tasks. Jessica is born and raised in Hastings. Her and her family also operate the Lucky You Stables, just north of town here, with a wide variety of animals, and most recently a baby raccoon that they're taking care of as well. Jessica is not new to the city. She previously worked for the police department for about 5 years in a receptionist role there, and so far she has been doing fantastic. We love having her. She's learning fast and frees up some of Paige's time as well so she can continue on the programming side of things. But Jessica has been a great addition to our team, and wish she was here tonight, but you will get to know her. So thank you.
Thanks, Chris. Welcome, Jessica. Council, if we want to step forward for a picture with, oh, sorry. Okay, and, oh yes, sorry. We also have 2 new partner introductions as well. So we have Joni Plat from 360 Communities, and Chief is here to introduce.
Thanks, Mayor and City Council members. I am going to make you stand up. I said I wasn't going to. So first we have Joni Plat, often referred to as Joni P for obvious reasons. No, I'm just kidding. Joni is our 360 community advocate, has office space in our building. Joni was born and raised in Minnesota and graduated from Inver Hills Community College in 2014 with an associate's degree in human services. Joni received an internship with the Lewis House and has been with 360 Communities ever since. Joni has always been someone that others can come to for comfort or assistance, and this is what drew her to the profession. And she recently started powerlifting and reached her personal best of a 165-pound deadlift just last week. Has it gone up since then? So we're happy to have Joni with us in the building, and we're better equipped to serve the Hastings community. So welcome, Joni. And also we have Jean Evans Williams. Jean is our Dakota County embedded social worker. Splits her time between the Hastings Police Department and Rosemount Police Department throughout the week. She's there to not only troubleshoot crisis issues that officers may have questions about, but she can also respond out in the field to someone that's in crisis. Jean has been practicing social work for several years and across many areas, including medical, child and adult protection, and mental health. Jean grew up in North Dakota, we're not going to hold that against you, on a wheat and cattle farm, and started in social work because she realized she was a great listener and people often confided with her. Currently, Jean lives in Stillwater with a few cats that have been left by her adult children, so congratulations on that. She enjoys power yoga, spending time near the St. Croix River, and gardening. So we're happy to have Jean in the building, assisting HPD with the growing number of crisis calls that we receive on a weekly basis. So welcome.
Great. Now, Council, if we'd have new employees and partners for a photo.
How's that? Okay.
Nice. Get a picture. Okay, here we go. 3, 2, 1. 3, 2, 1. That was perfect. I haven't recalled anyone to I'm sorry. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, tonight we have a proclamation for Make Music Day. And we will start with Councilmember Campbell.
Whereas the city of Hastings has declared Friday, June 21st as Make Music Day, and
whereas this is the 8th year the City of Hastings Parks and Recreation Department have celebrated Make Music Day. Make Music Day is a free celebration of music around the world on June 21st, beginning in 1982 in France, and now held on the same day each year in more than 1,000 cities in 120 countries. And
whereas the purpose of Make Music Day is to encourage and invite Hastings residents and visitors to celebrate by enjoying free performances, cultivating civic pride and a sense of community. And
Whereas Make Music Day 2024 will be held 10 a.m. to 9:40 p.m. at Roadside Park, Oliver's Grove, and Levy Park, and the full schedule can be found on the City of Hastings webpage and social media platforms. And
Whereas, in case of inclement weather, Make Music Day will be canceled and updates will be shared on our city website and city Facebook page. And
whereas local and metro area bands and soloists will donate their performances and volunteers will donate their time to help provide sound support and MC of each location. The City of Hastings is appreciative of these civic-minded performers and volunteers to help make this event possible. And now therefore be it resolved that I, Mayor Mary Fassbender, and the Hastings City Council hereby declares June 21, 2024 as Make Music Day in Hastings, Minnesota. Thanks for all the works and efforts for Make Music Day. Councilmember House, would you please start in the proclamation for Juneteenth Day?
yes, Your Honor. Whereas the President and Congress of the United States have declared a national holiday to commemorate the day, June 19th, 1865, when Union General Gordon Granger and a contingent of Union soldiers brought news of emancipation to Galveston, Texas. And
whereas the Juneteenth National Independence Day Act of June 17, 2021 amends the federal code to establish a paid holiday for all federal workers on Juneteenth Independence Day. And
Whereas the state of Minnesota also declares June 19th as a state holiday, and the city of Hastings, Minnesota wishes to join the national and state governments in setting aside a day for commemoration of liberty and equality for all citizens. And
Whereas the mayor and city council support the Hastings community's participation in the national conversation focusing on dismantling the systematic obstacles that impede our progress towards racial equity and social justice. And
Whereas by embracing Juneteenth as a holiday, we encourage community reflection about what unity to us and can be promote racial understanding and healing. And
whereas organizations like Building Remembrance for Reconciliation and the Dakota County Historical Society are actively engaged in promoting reconciliation through activities including efforts to build a memorial commemorative Hastings Early African Methodist Episcopal Church Browns Chapel and its congregation to establish a Black Heritage Trail through Hastings. And now therefore be it resolved that I, Mary Fassbender, and the Hastings City Council hereby declare June 19th as Juneteenth Day every year in the city of Hastings and encourage city employees and all citizens to actively participate in dialogue and community events as to promote the culture of belongings, that was General Grange's aspiration 159 years ago. And thank you all for the work and efforts for Juneteenth. And with that, we have a, sure, okay. Thank you. And along with that, we have a presentation tonight by James Curry he is with the BR4R, which is Building Reconciliation. And thank you. Welcome, James.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. In fact, thank you and thank everybody in the community for this proclamation. I didn't expect Mr. Jenkins to be here, but I think he's slipped out. But we've kept him updated on our first, installment that we've partnered with Formula, that's 4RM plus ULA. And a representative from Formula is here. This is Nathan. And so we're at such a nascent stage that I really don't have much of a presentation for you, but I am open to any further questions or
Who's Formula? What are they doing? What does that have to do with you?
Yeah, maybe Nathan could speak for the organization and the partnership, if you wouldn't mind joining me.
Hello, my name is Nathan Johnson. I'm an architect. I work in, our office is based in downtown St. Paul, so about 25 minutes from here. And James contacted us, I think it was 4 to 6 months ago, about something he's trying to do in regards to the Black and African American heritage here in Hastings. And we've done a lot of projects which kind of commemorate kind of those types of spaces, specifically within the Twin Cities metro area. So we're looking forward to the opportunity of starting the conversation with James and BAR for our here in the near future. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. Council, we would love to have a photo with
I have a question.
oh.
I have a
Councilmember Lightfoot?
question.
Oh, sure, Councilmember
Yeah.
Lightfoot?
I have a question. So you'd mentioned that you all have been working with Chris Jenkins with our Parks Department. What are you working on? Tell us a little bit about what are you thinking? I know you, kind of seems like it might be a little early in the process, but like if you had a wishing well, what are we hoping for? What's your plan?
Yeah, we've had a first round of CIF funding that came about in 2022, and we pursued an artist charrette idea, which is getting artists together and just sort of spitballing or visioning, concepting. And then the second proposal, that was fruitful, but didn't take us to the next stage. The next stage being, I felt, a proposal for CIF funds to perhaps get an architectural cohort together, whether they be students or graduates or a firm itself, to pick up where the artist charrette left off with probably more technical-based and foundational skills that are more appropriate for this concepting of a memorial, and that's in quotes because it's all starting to blend together with a Hastings Black Heritage Trail and then this stop along that way. Yeah, it's the meeting of two kind of concepts and finding out where that overlap is and coming to something concrete instead of the spitballing that we engaged in, which was fruitful, but again, didn't take us to where we wanted to.
So it would sound like a form of an art installation in one of the community parks here in the city of Hastings that would celebrate our,
Yeah, and
Or
I
Founders
don't know
Black
if it'd be
history.
how celebratory it would be because it's a church burning, if you were aware of
so
it.
this is all regarding the Browns, so what you're looking at here for an art installation is specific to the Browns Chapel piece, not so much the entire community of African Americans who were settled here, but more specific to that event?
I'm open to all those things, and I didn't want to steer it necessarily into the memorial connotation, nor did I want to make it, I don't know if it'll become celebratory, but it'll be a piece. Yeah. It's a reflection of how early we are in these stages.
Do you have any anticipation of when this would be ready for construction, or what kind of timeframe are you looking at here?
I'm thinking we could come out of this with specs that could be moved forward into probably what would be a third phase. I know that permits and zoning and place will still be a factor and are just sort of looming there. I would project, if I was to do so, at 2026.
You know, just on a final note, I was born and raised in Hastings, and I wasn't aware of Browns Chapel. It wasn't something I was taught. We didn't talk about it in school. I was, again, it was a sad, horrible time. But to hear more about the people who settled here early on, it was really exciting for me. I grew up in a obviously all-white community and didn't really understand why. So I'm very excited to see what you bring forward. And of course, that commemorative piece of those who were lost, but just the education piece for our community to understand this was part of our heritage and this,
You're looking at it. James is descendant.
yeah,
Yes,
see?
it is.
Yeah, and that is something we all need to be taught. So I'm excited for this piece, whatever comes out of it. I'm just very anxious to see how that's going to be used to educate our community as we go forward as a more diverse and equitable community. So thank you for taking the time. I know this probably isn't your forte. You've done an excellent job. And speaking on behalf, I'm sure, for the council, we're excited to see what you bring forward to us.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Councilmember House.
Thank you, Your Honor. I do thank all of you for being here today. It is one of our favorite days. We were just mentioning to each other. It's one of our favorite times is when it's filled. It's filled and there's a community of love, and we just appreciate everyone coming today. Other thing I just wanted to mention as well is if you haven't connected yet with our Arts and Culture Commission through the city, please, I've already figured you were, but I'm excited to hear from both of you, everyone on that together. So excited to see both.
Council, if we could take a picture with your group, that'd be great. All right. Council, any corrections to the June 3rd meeting? Okay. Comments from the audience? Anyone wishing to speak to the council at this time? Please step to the podium, state your name and your address, and we will hear your comments.
Hello, Council. My name is Steve Zion, 1772 Delridge Court, Hastings. In reference to the consent agenda, the first reading, item number 16, just want to know if anybody can go in depth on what that is, on what they're changing or what they're looking at changing, Chapter 94 for Parks and Rec. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Do that? Okay. It's up to you.
Motion to pull from the consent agenda.
Okay, we will pull number 16 from the consent agenda. And a second. And how about without number 16, Council, would you accept the motion to accept the consent agenda? First by Liefeld, second by Councilmember Lawrence. All those in favor of the motion state by saying aye. 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 Opposed to that motion state by saying nay. Tonight, awarding of contracts. We have a presentation and approval for 2023 comprehensive financial report. And for this item, we have our finance manager, Chris Idemiller, with us, and Ryan Engelstead from KDV. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you. Kelly? Kelly. How do we?
Help.
Yep.
Okay.
Nope, there you go. That's about, and then you can just scroll
All right.
like that.
And how to get it on the screen. Okay, all right. Okay, good evening, Mayor and council members. It's that time of year again, recapping this year's annual audit. In the past, we've had Nancy Schulzettenberg of Bergen KDV here on this evening, but this year Ryan has moved into that role as Nancy's moved on to different things within the company. So I guess at this point, I can just turn it over to Ryan.
All right. Thank you, Chris. Yep. Good evening, Mayor and members of the council. Great to be with you to present the information that we put together, and I've distributed final bound reports to you all there as well that go into all the details. But for efficiency purposes, we condensed the highlights of the information that's within all those documents into a much briefer slide deck. So I will go through that with you here. So with that, maybe quickly I'll see if I can do a full screen, change this a little bit. View, sorry about that. There we go. All right. So first off, we issue 3 different reports as part of the audit process, and then in addition to that, a communications letter. The report that we issue that gets the most attention by various users, the state auditor's office, the bond rating agencies, you name it, is the auditor's report that's at the front of the annual financial report. So the thickest of the documents that you have in front of you, towards the front of that, there's about 3 or so pages that make up this report. At the very beginning is the opinion section. And that is, again, within that report, that section gets the most focus. The type of opinion that we are providing with regards to the financial statements is an unmodified, also referred to commonly as a clean opinion. The report does also go into details about responsibilities of both management of the city as well as us as the auditors. High level, the responsibilities of the city is to provide a fair presentation of the financial information, maintenance of internal controls, and the like. Our duty is to design and implement an audit approach that would put us in a position to provide reasonable assurance that there would not be any material misstatements that would go undetected as part of the process. And that reasonable assurance is considered to be a high level of confidence, 90-95%. That's just driven based on how we do our materiality calculations, sampling, and so forth to get the appropriate coverage. Okay. So then moving to the next report, this is within a separate document that you have. This and the next one I'll refer to. But government auditing standards, so basically audits for all government entities with some exceptions. There's a requirement for us to do some added work as it pertains to internal controls. It's not a deep dive where we're able to provide an actual opinion on the effectiveness of internal controls, but the work we do is enough that if there are significant deficiencies or material weaknesses, there's a likelihood that those would surface as part of our engagement. But pleased to report, there was nothing that surfaced that rose to that level. So great job by the folks at the city that are involved in the financial activities and overseeing the finances to make sure that all the appropriate checks and balances are working as they should. Also, if there was non-compliance related to laws, regulations, contracts, things like that, we'd call that out. Nothing along those lines that surfaced there either. So then the third report we have is the Minnesota Legal Compliance report. This is a requirement by the state auditor's office. They publish a very detailed audit guide that we have to go through as part of the audit of the financial statements. And it hits on all these different areas that are noted here. Some of the key focuses are things like contracting and bidding, making sure that the statutes are being followed as it pertains to those types of functions. as well as many different areas. There's a long list of items that we check on, and through all that, there were no findings as it pertained to compliance with relevant state statutes as well. Okay. So then we'll move on to the required communications letter, another separate document that you have in front of you. Just high level, the first part of it gets into, again, those communications that are required under the standard. So it has sections labeled as along the lines of, if there are any difficulties that we encountered as part of the audit, disagreements with management, misstatements identified, things like that. But the verbiage that's included in the letter is all very clean. We did not have any of those types of issues as we worked through the process. Chris and Ashley and all the others involved here at the city, certainly very cooperative and prompt with addressing our questions and requests for info. So we appreciate that. All right. And then I will get into the financial analysis on the following slides. The emerging issues tab here just refers to, at the very back of that letter, there's some information about new standards and such that are coming into play here in 2024 and beyond. Just provide some of that technical guidance to the city, and we work closely with them as part of the implementation process and provide any templates and tools that we can to assist in that regard. All right, so here's where we kind of get into the details of the financial results and position of the city, kind of looking at some of the core operations and so forth. Of course, the primary focus being on the general fund. Year over year, so we've got 5 years of information here, but my commentary will mainly pertain to comparing 2023 to 2022. You'll see there is overall a slight drop in the total fund balance for the general fund. It's about 3%. And that's really due to a few different factors that we'll get into in some following slides here, both on the revenue and the expenditure side. Down in the, within total fund balance, there's different categories of reporting. So we've got some for non-spendable and restricted. So those are dollars that aren't free for the city to spend for general operating costs. But the unassigned portion is what represents that piece that is available. So you can see there a dip of about $500,000. However, it's worth noting that the total unassigned fund balance of about $9.7 million at the end of 2023 represents about 59% of the annual general fund expenditures for the year. And that's a very healthy position for the city to be in. The fund balance policy that the city has a guidance for a range of 35 to 45, so you're certainly very well positioned as it pertains to kind of that minimum level that the city is looking to maintain. Okay. We have a pie chart on the next slide that just shows the allocation of the revenues for the general fund. And as would be expected, this stays rather consistent year over year. About 2/3 of the revenues related to taxes and assessments. And then depending on what happens with some grant activity and so forth, some of those other categories can jump around by a percentage or two from one year to the next. But right in line with what we'd expect there from a consistency perspective. Okay. All right, so now the breakdown in dollars of those various revenue categories. You can see, as far as the taxes and assessments, the increase there ties in with what the percentage increase for the levy was for 2023. The most notable items to call out here, and this will be a theme when we look at the enterprise funds as well for the utilities. But 2022 was a record-breaking year for development-wise. So as far as building permits and inspection charges and things like that, there was a big jump that occurred in 2022. Here you can see for licenses and permits, as well as over here in charges for services. So the result for 2023, if you were to kind of compare it back to 2022, certainly a nice increase over that 2-year period. So 2023 is still a good year. It's just 2022 was, a banner year for sure. So, okay, and then one other item to point out here is over in the miscellaneous column. You can see that for 2023, that really jumped up to about almost $600,000. And we're seeing this across the board just based on investments that governmental entities are kind of limited to in terms of investing in fixed income securities, government bonds, and so forth. The market fluctuations on those bonds it's required by the reporting standards to pick up the unrealized gains or losses on those investments from one year to the next. So 2022 actually had a fairly significant unrealized loss, and much of that was recovered, if not all of it was recovered in 2023. So that's why you see this number jumping up. The unrealized or the investment returns, which does include interest and dividend revenue as well, was about $563,000 of this $593. So again, very hard to predict as to where that's going to shake out from one year to the next. Okay. On the expenditure side for the general funds, again here percentages stayed very consistent. The most significant category being public safety, and that's certainly common for cities. And the percentage coming in at 49%, I would say in 9 out of 10 cases, I see it landing in that 45 to 50% range. So right in line. Okay. All right, so then again here looking at the breakout in dollars for the general fund, I'll just call out a few things here. Public safety, again, similar to other municipalities, we see this to continue to increase just based on changes in the steps and lanes for the personnel. And then also there was a new contract with the county related to dispatch services that had an increase in cost, so that drove some of that increase from $6.5 million up to almost $7.2 million year over year. Public Works, you'll see 2022 jumped up a bit, and then it came back down in 2023. There was some added storage costs that came into play in 2022 while some building construction was happening, so that's what drove that. And then capital outlay typically does jump around as well, just based on the timing of projects. So 2021 had the Highway 316 project. Then it was not quite as significant in terms of the number, extent, or size of projects in 2022, but then 2023, of course, with the City Hall project commencing, costs coming into play there. Okay. All right, so then looking at the budget to actual results for the general fund, I'll just call out a few line items here. So the intergovernmental revenues, you'll see, has the largest variance of any of the categories in the revenue section. The budget included some planned use of the ARPA, the relief funding from the federal government. But again, as we've seen, the timing of those projects or spend on those is somewhat uncertain. And indeed, for the city, there was not much spend on those ARPA funds during 2023, but there will be a significant amount in 2024. So that's when that revenue will come into play. Okay. Then in the expenditure section, I will say, overall revenues, there were some categories that had some positive variances, so I'll shook out pretty close to break even there, 1.4% variance. Okay, and then on the expenditure side, the largest variance, again, coming in the capital outlay section. So timing of projects, there was a dump truck acquisition that occurred during the year. And then again, the City Hall project. Otherwise, the operating categories for the general fund, you can see here, again, about as close to being on target as you could be, very minimal percentage differences, which demonstrates the very sound fiscal management that's in place at the city. So, okay. Overall, about a $300,000 decrease in the fund balance for the general fund. Okay. Then we'll move on to a couple special revenue funds here. So the fire and ambulance area. With this one, there's some unique things that are coming into play in 2023 that's affecting these numbers. First, on the revenue side, there was a rather substantial increase in the levy allocation to this fund. That was about $750,000, so that drove a little over half of this increase year over year. The other piece relates to some non-recurring state aid that came in during 2023 of almost $900,000. So some offsetting decreases there, of course, based on the overall change. And then on the expenditure side, this year, the big jump going from 4.6 to 6.8, capital outlay expenditures do get pulled in there just based on how they get presented on the financial statements within that overall expenditures category. So a couple big items that came into play this year, or 2023, in regards to capital. Purchase of a ladder truck as well as a tanker truck in that area. So big spends there that drove that expenditure increase. And then this requires some explaining. So you've got expenditures exceeding revenues by 1.4 million, but yet fund balance increased by 400,000+. The reason for that is there's a couple other financing sources that are coming in. Again, this is a different category outside of revenues within the financial statement. So if there's a sale of capital assets, so there was a sale of an ambulance and a fire truck during 2023, those proceeds get in this other sources column that they don't go into revenue. So that was about $750,000. And then there was a transfer from the general fund of just over $1 million. Well, two separate transfers. One was to assist with the cost on that ladder truck. So a bunch of different things going on there that drove those numbers in that fund. Oops. Parks and Rec, there was significant park dedication fees in 2022 that was the driver of that significant revenue increase. So kind of coming back down to normal levels, or levels that were seen in 2020 and 2021 for 2023. And then in 2023, there was a large number of projects and equipment purchases taking place. So that's what drove the expenditure increase there and the overall fund balance decrease. Okay. Then we'll get into the 4 enterprise funds that the city has. So in all those funds, very high level, and the key point here is they all had positive operating results, good financial position. So what that shows is that the city is setting rates at an appropriate level to make sure that enough dollars are being generated to cover the costs, as well as we'll see in the graphs, covering depreciation expense as well. Not all cities are able to cover the full amount of depreciation expense, but those that are, setting yourself up well for the future for replacement costs of infrastructure and so forth. So, all right. So in the water fund, 2022 had a jump, and that was because of connection charges with all the development that was happening. And then there was some offset decrease in 2022 because of the water ban that was in place. So some usage decline there. That usage increased in 2023, but just not as much in connection charges in that year. Excuse me. All right. Sewer fund. All right, so here, similar theme, connection charges driving the 2022 bump there. And then here, I did want to point out, you can see that the operating income did dip down to about $57,000. Again, this is after covering depreciation expense. So still a good result. But some of that change, particularly going from $200,000, $350,000 down to the $56,000, Again, less connection charges, but then also some increased fees from the Met Council in 2023. Okay. Stormwater fund, this is one that most cities struggle with in terms of being able to produce a positive financial result, but Hastings is in a fortunate position where it is doing so. The expenses did jump up a bit this year, and that's really driven by some non-cash items. There's a technical accounting requirement related to pensions and with participation in the statewide pension plan. So the numbers that get produced from that have to get allocated out. That drove most of this expense increase for the stormwater fund. Also some increases with the depreciation expense on the capital assets. All right, then the last one, the hydro fund. Again, numbers stayed fairly consistent. The drop in revenue tied to a change in how the solar garden credits are being allocated, with those now going to the general fund. Okay. And the last piece we'll look at here is with regards to tax capacity. So with this, and this is a good result to have, a declining tax capacity rate. And you can see here from 2022 to 2023, a rather substantial drop. And again, we are seeing this for the most part with other municipalities, as there was a rather significant bump in the market valuations that drive the net taxable tax capacity here. So with that, if you take the increase on the levy of just 6.7%, compare that to the increase on the tax capacity side of almost 20%, that's what drove that significant decrease on with regards to the graph that we just looked at here on the tax rate. So with that, I have covered everything that I wanted to in terms of commentary as far as the financial highlights, the audit results, and so forth. I'm glad to field any questions that anyone might have for me. So again, thank you to everyone involved at the city. We certainly appreciate the opportunity to be of service and look forward to continuing that.
Sure. Thank you, Ryan.
Yep.
Councilmember Leifeld.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ryan, if you are, I don't know if you're able to go back to that last slide.
Yep.
The tax levy and capacity slide.
Yep.
So, in layman's terms, the tall blue line and the short green line,
Yep.
does that mean our residents are paying less taxes? What does that mean to us as a homeowner?
Yeah, so and Chris, you can probably get into the details more on this and explain it in a way that of how it's discussed internally, but yeah, I mean, that's the gist of it.
In a nutshell?
Yeah.
That's the gist of it in a nutshell?
Council members, basically, when we have our capacity increase like it did, for every dollar that we gain in taxes, just the growth alone is going to, we're going to have new developments, they're going to take on some of that tax increase. Homes will be paying more, but I guess it's just more attributable to the valuation as well as new developments, so it's not a straight dollar for dollar increase to every home. So if the tax went up 6.7%, that doesn't mean everyone's taxes went up 6.7%. I'm getting into the weeds here, I don't know if that helps.
I just see two highly, I mean, they're, the first time, they're quite a bit further apart than they have been in our last 4 years, 5 years. So I was just kind of in a layman's terms, not in a.
I'll try. Basically, I suppose the properties whose valuation went up would have seen a higher increase than those that were more moderate in their increase. So I guess is that a reasonable way to put it?
Right, yeah, I would agree.
Okay.
So,
Thank you.
but again, it is something we're seeing across other municipalities as well, that a very significant jump in the valuation, market values of the properties. So that capacity is somewhat skyrocketing in 2023, so, yeah.
Thank you, Councilmember Leifeld. Any other questions, council? I would look for a motion to approve the report. Councilmember Pemble? And Councilmember Lawrence for a second. New discussion, council? All those in favor of the motion state by saying aye. Aye. Opposed to that motion, state by saying nay. And that motion prevails. Thank you again,
All right.
Ryan.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chris.
Yep.
Under Community Development, we will have Community Development Director John Hinsman joining us via Zoom. And the first thing we, oh, go ahead, John, thank you.
Thank you for having me here tonight. First item we have before us tonight is a resolution for the improvement of Pleasant Drive addition. I'm going to share my screen here and show, maybe I won't, I don't have the ability to do so, but we're looking at a 10-acre development which is located at the northwest corner of Pleasant Drive in County Road 46. Dakota County CDA is preparing to subdivide this property into a couple of different outlots. What an outlot is a lot that is created but cannot be developed. The purpose behind this is to serve Dakota County's long-term goals, one of which is a route for the Vermilion River Greenway Trail, one for additional right-of-way for Pleasant Drive and County Road 46 for future improvements there, and then remaining land would be used by the Dakota County CDA for housing at some point in the future. Now, at this point, there would need to be a subdivision, a re-subdivision of the property in order for development of the CDA property to occur. Plus, the availability of city utilities is about 1/2 mile away, so there would be a few items necessary prior to doing that. We did have our planning commission review this item at the June 10th meeting. They recommended approval on a unanimous vote. We did not have anyone there who spoke during the public hearing, nor have we had any public comments prior to that. I think Carrie Gill may be present tonight if you have any questions for her from Dakota CDA, or I can stand for any questions on this one at all. Again, for this item, it is a simple majority of council for approval. Thank you.
Great, thank you, John. Council discussion? Okay, Councilmember Liefeld?
Thank you, Your Honor. So just to confirm, John, right now what we're voting on is just, it has nothing to do with development of the property. We are not voting.
Development could not occur, council member, without these outlots being subdivided in the future into another subdivision. So no, it does not confer any ability to develop.
Okay, and then at that time, it would go before Planning Commission again and then back to council. Okay, thank you, John, I appreciate it. Your Honor, I'd like to.
Okay, Councilmember Liefeld made a motion to approve with a second by Councilmember House. Additional discussion, council. All those in favor of the motion state by saying aye. Aye. Opposed to that motion, state by saying nay. And that motion prevails. We also have a resolution for a site plan for the stadium seating and locker room for United Heroes League 15211 Ravenna Trail. And John, you may continue.
Council member and mayor, I have the map up here for the property we're looking at tonight. This is a site plan approval at United Heroes League for stadium seating and for a locker room. Seating would seat about 1,175 individuals and about a 3,500 square foot locker room. So the red property here constitutes what Defending the Blue Line United Heroes League has for site. This is County Road 54, County Road 91. You can see over here the outline of the hockey arena, which is in place right now. Just to the south of it would be the bleachers, and then the locker room facilities would be underneath it. So if you take a look at a little bit more of the development, this is what it would look like to the south. You can see that the bleacher facilities do come close to the property line to the south of the development. One of the conditions that we have is that the development property line is reconfigured to provide further space to meet minimum requirements on that one. It appears that that is something that both owners will be able to work out. This is a depiction here of the under area of the locker rooms, what it looks like here from the side and front views, and then the overall view itself. So we did have the Planning Commission review this as well at their last meeting, did recommend approval on a unanimous vote, and we did not have anyone speak at the meeting for this item. So I can stand for any questions that you may have at this time. The approval of this requires a simple majority of council. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Council, any discussion? Okay, Councilmember Liefeld?
Your Honor, I'll make a motion to approve the stadium seat and locker room as presented by staff based on the conditions be met.
Thank you, Councilmember Liefeld. Councilmember Verichoff, seconds. Any discussion, council? Okay, all those in favor of the motion state by saying aye. Aye. Opposed to that motion state by saying nay. And that motion prevails. We also have a second reading for adoption and an ordinance amendment, City Code, Chapter 34, for building department fees. John, you may continue.
Okay, thank you, Mayor, City Council members. Tonight, we do have the second reading and final adoption of an amendment to City Code, Chapter 3403, which is our fee schedule. This is to modify certain building department fees within the building department. As you may recall, the council did have first reading of this ordinance at the last meeting on June 3rd, and a simple majority of council is necessary for action on this. So our building official, Lonnie Johnson, went through a pretty comprehensive review of our building fees. There's a couple of main purposes that we're looking at in the fee schedule that's before you tonight. One is to reduce duplicative permits for single properties by combining separate permits into all-inclusive permits. And this would be for ease of tracking and monitoring. So for a construction project that may require a plumbing permit, an electrical permit, a mechanical permit, it now requires a permit which is inclusive of all these things. It makes it easier for us to track. Ensure the fees adequately cover the cost of staff review. Most fees that are listed here have not been increased since 2015. So it's been about 10 years since we've had an increase in fees. So I have some summaries within the report that go over some of the changes that we're looking for. I'll highlight a couple of things in particular. Our minimum building permit fee for just general work was going to increase from $50 to $100. In general, any time that we make a trip out to a site to review a permit, and we have the review of that permit in the office, we're gonna exceed $100 easily, and certainly over the $50 that we have today. So we are still looking at that as something that's not completely covering the fees, but we think it more fairly covers the fees that we do have. For basement finish and remodels, we've created an all-inclusive permit combining separate building permit, mechanical permits. The permit is based on the valuation of work on this one, so there is going to be an increase in some of the fees from that. From what we have presently, decks are going on a square foot calculation with a minimum $100 fee. We also have a new schedule for general construction fees and building valuations. Lonnie did take a look at some neighboring communities, taking a look at what fees were charged, and had our permits cover what we need, and also to be in line with what other cities were charging for these permits. So that is generally what we're looking at for changes within the building code itself for fees. So I can stand for any questions that you may have at this time.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you, John. Council, any discussion? Councilmember Verichoff.
Thank you, Your Honor. I just want to commend John and commend Lonnie and commend any of the city staff that worked on this. I think that the role of government is to do the best, most effective way that we can serve our citizens. So I think this is wonderful. Very glad to see it again. I would make a motion to approve this.
Great. Thank you, Councilmember Verichoff, with a second with Councilmember House. Any new discussion, Councilmember Liefeld?
Would like to add to that, we want to make it easier to work with the city within, in regards to new construction, remodel. We've had comments over the years. It looks to me like this is, sure, there is going to be a monetary piece to it as well, which, is to be expected, but it also seems to me that this is John and the city staff's way of really making it a little bit easier to work with everyone. So to Councilmember Verichoff's comments, I would commend you guys for taking that step, and hopefully our residents and our new business owners, as they come to town, will see that this may help their process. So thank you for bringing that before us, John.
Thank you, Councilmember Liefeld. Okay, there was a first and second. No other discussion? All those in favor of the motion state by saying aye. Aye. Opposed to that motion state by saying nay. And that motion prevails. Thanks, John. Under administration, we have a Resolution to approve a liquor license renewal for Spiral Brewery, and with that, we will have an introduction by Assistant City Administrator Kelly Murtaugh. Oh, Dan, I thought you were walking up there to do a,
Just putting the logo on the screens.
sorry.
This item was pulled from consent originally so that Councilmember Fox would not have to abstain. However, she is abstaining from afar, perhaps. So this is a typical liquor license that would normally have been included with the ones that were on the consent agenda. I can certainly stand for any questions that you might have.
Thank you, Kelly. Councilmember Layfield.
Your Honor, make a motion to approve the liquor license renewal for Spiral Brewery.
Okay, and
Second.
Councilmember Pemble seconds. Any discussion, council? All those in favor of the motion state by saying aye. Aye opposed to that motion state by saying nay, and that motion prevails. With addition to number 16 from the consent agenda, City Administrator Dan Maticha will give us an update on the item, the first reading for Chapter 94 for Parks and Rec.
Sure, I can introduce this, and if there's technical questions, Attorney Land can answer those. This really is a matter of housekeeping. Back in, I think the first meeting in May, so a little over a month ago, 3 meetings ago, Council did a fairly sizable update to our Park and Rec chapter of the city code. One of the pieces of that update regarded overnight mooring or parking of boats at the city-owned dock, and not just at the dock, but also in the upstream portion of it. Those under our permit conditions from the Corps of Engineers have not been allowed for 15 years or so that the dock's been there, but has not been an enforceable ordinance, just a sign saying don't do it. In updating the ordinance, they said, Parks and Rec Commission, I think also the Parks and Rec Committee of Council staff recommended putting some teeth to that to make sure that there actually was an enforceable ordinance to prevent overnight mooring. As soon as that got adopted a month and a half ago, there was question about, well, what do you mean by overnight? So really what this ordinance does is adds a couple of definitions and some clarification that essentially says that no mooring or no mooring overnight, or I guess the reverse of that is mooring is only allowed during daylight hours, which is essentially from a half hour before sunset or sunrise to a half hour after sunset. So it really is a housekeeping clarification in order to address that overnight parking of boats at the dock or upstream of the dock.
Thank you, Dan.
That, I could stand for any questions or hand it off to Attorney Land.
Thank you. Councilmember Layfield.
Thank you, Your Honor. Dan, thank you. That addresses the question specifically by the resident who was curious, so there's no further concern.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Layfield. With that, we will need a motion, Council.
Motion to approve second reading for amending the City Ordinance 94.
And Councilmember Pemble is a second. Okay. And no other discussion, Council. All those in favor of the motion state by saying aye. Aye. Opposed to that motion state by saying nay. And that motion prevails. Council members, do you have any announcements? Okay, I have a few. City offices will be closed Wednesday, June 19th in observance of Juneteenth. Summer rec programs at Levy Park, Thursday, June 20th. Music in the Park with Holly Recca Ralaz. Tribute to the 50s, supported by Ruth and George Doffing Charitable Fund. Tuesday, June 25th, Comedy in the Park with Kenny Ahern, physical comedian. Sponsored by Smead Manufacturing Company. Wednesday, June 26th, Storytime in the Park with the theme Emotions, a partnership with Pleasant Hill Library. Thursday, June 27th, Music in the Park with Papa Bear Norton. Original Comedic Country, supported by Ruth and George Doffing Charitable Fund. Friday, June 21st is Make Music Day with 21 performers over 12 hours at 3 locations. Bring a blanket or a chair to enjoy the music from talented musicians in Hastings Parks. Harmonicas and drumsticks and gift cards will be given away, and there are also food trucks available. Recon Art and Police is Wednesday, June 26th at Sunny Acres Park with popsicles, stick bird feeders, hula hooper demos, and games recommended for elementary and middle schoolers, supported by SC Toys, Country Financial, Hastings Lions Club, Hastings Family Service, Community Ed, and Hastings Prescott Arts Council. The Arts and Culture Commission hosts 12th Night, a theatrical performance in the park at Vermilion Falls Park on Sunday, June 30th. Meetings coming forward, Tuesday, June 18th, 7 p.m., Heritage Preservation Commission. Wednesday, June 19th has been canceled. Thursday, June 20th, 6:30 p.m., Public Safety Advisory Commission. Monday, June 24th, 7 p.m., Operations Committee, and 7 p.m., Planning Commission. Monday, July 1st, 7 p.m., City Council meeting. With that, I would accept a motion to adjourn. Councilmember House, Councilmember Pemble, all those in favor of the motion state by saying aye. Aye. Opposed to that motion state by saying nay. We are adjourned. Okay.